live from Waikanae Beach in New Zealand. Hope you're all having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2576. Today we are looking at asking the question, where was your family when they volunteered for their community? Yes, volunteering has always been one of the ways people quietly make a difference in places they call home. Think about people in your family who gave their time without expecting anything in return. They may have helped at a school, a hospital, a library, community centre, sports club, food bank, animal shelter, veterans organisation, charity, service club, or neighbourhood group. Others may simply have been the person everyone knew they could call on when something needed to be done. For earlier generations, volunteering was always called volunteering. It was simply what neighbours did. If a family needed help, people showed up. If the community needed a new hall, playground, garden, or gathering place, local residents pitched in. Someone organised the fundraiser, someone cooked the food, someone hammered the nails, and someone inevitably made the tea. Some people volunteered because a particular cause was important to them. Perhaps their own experience inspired them to help others facing similar circumstances. Others volunteered because they wanted to improve their community, meet people, share a skill, or support an organization that had once helped their family. I love volunteering. I absolutely love doing it. And I don't do it for the thanks. I do it for the fact that I can help people. And you won't hear me, sometimes you'll hear me talk about some of the stuff that I've done, but usually you won't. Volunteering can also reveal parts of someone's personality that we may never discover through official records. The quiet grandfather listed as an accountant on every document might have spent 30 years coaching children on the weekends. The grandmothers whose occupation was recorded as homemaker may have organized community events, raised thousands of dollars for local causes, or spent countless hours helping families in need. Look for clues in family photographs and keepsakes. There may be certificates, badges, uniforms, newspaper clippings, thank you letters, awards, membership cards, event programs, or even photographs of someone standing beside people you don't recognize. Ask who those people were and what was happening. You may uncover an entire part of someone's life you knew nothing about. And don't overlook the stories of ordinary acts of service. Not every volunteer received an award or appeared in a newspaper. Sometimes the most meaningful contribution was delivering meals to an elderly neighbor, driving someone to an appointment, helping a struggling family, organizing a community event, or showing up week after week because someone needed them. Volunteering is such an important part of who we are. Do we do it? Do we don't do it? Do we get involved with an organization that is designed for helping others? Do we get involved with a particular family that you kind of take them under their wing and make meals for them and things like that? Are you taking care of a neighbor? You might have a neighbor who doesn't have family close by and you're just keeping an eye out for them. There's all sorts of ways that you can volunteer. You can. About 3 weeks ago, we were up in Palmerston North, the city of my birth, and we were doing a sort of like a memorial tour. Going to drive down memory lane in Palmerston North. We went past the first house that I ever lived in, that my mum and dad ever owned. They built that house. And so we got to see that house. We got to see the area where the rat house was, which was with the flat that they were living at, flat meaning apartment, that they were living in. And they had this rat in the wall, and it broke through one night and ran up Dad's legs when we went to turn the light switch on. They'd just gotten the keys for their house that day, so they moved that night. The bed in the sports car. I don't know how they got a mattress in a sports car. It's a 2-seater sports car. Somehow they got a mattress, and their dad drove the car. Mum followed on her scooter. I'm guessing she had the bedding and the clothes with her. They may have got it in the sports car. I don't know. I forgot to ask about that part of the story. But they spent the first night in their brand new house that they'd just gotten the keys for that morning, on the floor, on a mattress, no curtains on any of the windows. So that was their beginning. But and then one of the places we went to was a place called Highbury House. Highbury House is a big thrift store. And I remember going to Highbury House as a child with my grandmother. My grandmother spent many years volunteering with Highbury House, and she was a seamstress by trade. So she would go through all the clothing that had been donated, and she would make repairs to the clothing before they got put on the out on the stands and everything else. And we walked into the store, And I'm like standing there going, none of this feels familiar at all. We're in the right strip mall. That much I knew. We're in the right strip mall. But we walked in the door and I'm like walking around going, I don't recognize any of this. I said, they never had a loft above the counter. They didn't have this. They didn't have that. There was this here. And then you went through a doorway into the back room, which is where most of the clothing was and the changing rooms were and that sort of stuff. And there was I said, this is kind of familiar, this door off here to this room, but it wasn't that big. And I'm like thinking, I don't think this is the right place. I said, it is Highbury House, but going back, I mean, I was there as a teenager and younger. I spent a lot of time in Highbury House, and I'm like, this isn't it. I said, there was a window behind the counter. I said, because Nana would sit there in the corner in the chair doing her hand sewing repairs while Marie and I ran rampant around the store and played and cleaned up and sorted things for them. And sometimes we did the serving behind the counter where we took people's money and gave them change and their purchases and stuff. And so we went driving down the mall, and I said, that fish and chip shop at the end there, I said, that kind of looks like the doorway to Highbury House that I remember. And so we went back later, and I was talking about it that night on my podcast, and my brother then sent me a photograph from Highbury House's Facebook page that showed, this is the store we started in, then we were in this store, and then this is the one we're in now. This is the last 40 years. This is how long, or no, 60 years, 50 years. I can't remember what it was. If I opened up my WhatsApp account, I'll be able to tell you. It was like the last 50 or 60 years that, actually, that's what I need. Where did he put it? Now, it's got me curious as to how many years ago it was. This was on their Facebook page when they celebrated. I know I've gone right past. Oh, I was looking at the wrong pictures. Pretty sure he WhatsApped it to me. No, I might have texted it to me. Let me go to my text messages. I know he sent it to me. He usually WhatsApps me pictures. Oh, he would have sent it through Messenger. One moment. He sent me the picture, and this was their last. Oh, there it is. I don't know when this picture was taken, but this was in 2009. So from 1969 to 2009, and they showed the frontages of the store, and the one that was in the middle, they showed two angles. They showed two angles of each one. All three are in the same strip mall, but the ones that were in the middle, I said, that's the one where Nana worked. That's the one where Nana worked. And this was 40, they're celebrating 40 years in 2009. So they hit 15 years in 2019. And so they're coming up on 60 years in a couple of years. Easy way for me to remember my brother. But and so they had the frontage there, and I said to Mum and Dad, I said, that pictures in the middle, those pictures in the middle, that is the store. That's that takeaway place that was on the end of the strip mall when we visited, and that's where that's the Highbury House that Nana would have known that she worked. Well, that's the one that I knew her as working in, and so she volunteered there. Any clothes that came in, she would get them, go through them, make any repairs that needed to be made to them. And like replacing zippers, replacing buttons, doing some darning on the material if it could be darned, fixing things up, and then washing and drying them and ironing them and taking them into the store and hanging them up and putting the price tags on them and hanging them up. But the store that we went in, I had zero recollection for, and now I know why, because they had been in that place a few years before this one. So we did find that. Other things I did is volunteering over the years. St. John's Ambulance, it's the free ambulance service here in New Zealand, and they have an amazing youth program. And when I was a teenager, because it's what I did instead of Girl Guides or Girl Scouts, it's Girl Guides here in New Zealand. They have a teenage program where they take you in and teach you basic first aid. If you're taking care of a patient in bed, how do you do that? Then it was like you come across an accident scene, and how do you decide who is the first person that you're going to treat? How do you organize other people that are around to get them doing tasks so they're not just standing there as looky-loos and all that sort of stuff? All of that training came into hand years later when Brad was in hospital after his first surgery, where he had the lower anterior resection, which is where they removed 12 inches of his rectum and colon to get rid of the cancer and then sewed him back up. So that training came when he ended up being in hospital for 21 days that day. And I had my own little collection of stuff that was needed for him, with dressings and the ileostomy bags and all of that sort of stuff was all sitting there on our little windowsill. It was my little, the nurses were happy for me to have it because they would come and raid it at times. But they were always asking me, can you please come work for us? I'm like, no, I only have one patient. And they were like, where did you learn all this? I said, St. John's. And this was a youth program. And we had events that you would go to where you would compete against other chapters of St. John's and all that. And every year we would go knocking on the doors, doing collections for St. John's. And so there was that. I've done selling poppies in front of defense buildings when it is a very cold southerly coming through, and it was like -10 with it was like -10 degrees Celsius with the southerly, and I'm in uniform, completely wrapped up in whatever my uniform would allow me, freezing cold, having to salute officers because there was a lot of officers in this building as they came in and offered to sell them poppies, and I was hanging onto the cash box, and my box got filled up every single time. It was a lot of fun doing that because all of the officers wanted to have their poppies to put behind their name badges on their uniform. Name badges were on the right hand side. So there was things like, doing collections for different organizations and stuff. I volunteered with that. Our youth group would volunteer, would have like a collect names and places of people in the church, and would go around and weed their garden, trim their bushes, mow their lawns, all that sort of stuff for those that were struggling within the church community. So we had a lot of stuff with that. Volunteered many times to be in musicals with the youth group. I will tell you this, I loved my teenage years. I loved my youth group. It's one of those things that you look back on, it's like, man, why am I not doing that now? Why am I not involved in that now? Because I had so much fun with the musicals and things. And even in the a school play, I was in a school play one time dressed up as a 55-year-old man, walking around the school, and teachers were stopping and asking me if they could help me. I was in full costume, full makeup. We were doing a dress rehearsal before our first performance, and people were stopping me in the hallways asking me if they could help. Having to tell teachers, it's me, it's Helen. And these are teachers that I knew that had me in their classes. They didn't recognize me. To them, I was a 55-year-old man. I was in a 3-piece suit with a pillow. I was a skinny kid. I was a lot smaller than I am now. Had a pillow as my belly underneath this 3-piece suit, and the tie and the waistcoat and everything. And loved doing that. Loved being on stage. It was a lot of fun. Volunteered in choirs. We had at school, and this was a group that you could volunteer for. Every year we would go and do a concert for the Age Concern, which was the seniors centre. It was known as Age Concern. Don't ask me why or how. That's just what it was known as. And so I would volunteer to be one of the performers on there. I've done solo dances. I've done and I'd actually choreographed dances in that too. So that was a lot of fun. Got to choreograph the dances that we did for most of the stuff that we did. We had somebody who was a tap dancer who did a solo performance on that. We had singers who did things. We had the choir that would do things. I was part of all of that. And I have a newspaper article where we're all standing with girls are standing with their hands up in the end, like these skimpy little black dresses, and we're doing Hey Big Spender. And there was a write-up on that because that's the one that I did the dance for to Rainbow Connection. And in the newspaper article, it says that I did a can-can style cartwheel in full splits in the routine that was more graceful and not as boisterous as the French variety. So that was my little thing there. And I had totally forgotten about other ones that I had done. And we're over at Mum and Dad's place a few weeks back, and Mum and Dad brought out this box which has a lot of their memory stuff in there. And I said, we need to come back and record us going through this box. But Dad pulls out this newspaper article and goes and hands it to Mum. And she opens it up. And it was a good size piece. And then Mum turns it around, and Mum looks at it and goes, oh, yes, and folds it back up and puts it down. Well, I pick it up and open it and go, oh, my gosh, I know that person. I know that. Oh, my God, is that me? And it was another article written about the Age Concern concert. And I was mentioned in there a couple of times. And one of the things I was mentioned in for was doing all the choreography for the numbers that we did, because we had numbers that we stood and sung. Instead of just standing there singing them, we had actions to go with them and stuff. And then there was 2 girls, one I coached in gymnastics and her best friend, and the 3 of us did a choreographed dance for the butterfly song, love's like a butterfly. And we did that, and we had Cher We had wings that went from our wrists down to our attached to the bottom of the leotards and stuff, so we could flap our wings. And yeah, and I choreographed all of that. So I'd totally forgotten about that particular one. So there's probably other articles around, because I did that more than twice, the Age Concern concert, but it was a lot of fun. And then there'll be stuff that we would volunteer for at high school to go and do around things around the school, or helping other families and things, helping raise funds for stuff. There was just a lot of stuff that we did as kids and stuff. And as I've gotten older, there's organizations that I volunteer for to be mentors to people going through certain stuff. And I have met some of my mentorees in person, which has been absolutely wonderful. To meet them in person after talking on the phone with them for so many months, and then finally get to meet them in person was just like, that just filled my heart with joy. There's been places where I've volunteered to go and walk the dogs. That's like one of the shelters, go and be a dog walker. What else have we done? Done lots of different volunteering. Who in your family has done volunteering work? Do you volunteer for something like Meals on Wheels and go and deliver their meals and things? Remember, my grandmother used to do Meals on Wheels as well. My mum and dad do Meals on Wheels. I kind of just follow the tradition. I guess one day I might end up doing Meals on Wheels if I get myself a car. Who knows? But there's just so much stuff out there that you can volunteer for. Just find it and go help somebody in need. Volunteering is to me, it is such a fulfilling thing. It's not looking for praise. It's not looking for, oh my gosh, the thank yous are nice when you get them, but a lot of times it's stuff that you do behind the scenes that people don't know. That you're just out there in the community and you're doing stuff. You're helping a neighbor do something. You go and help this neighbor do that. You see somebody struggling in the street with something, walking along in the street, or they may have fallen over, so you help them sit up and call the ambulance if needed, that sort of thing. I don't do it for the recognition. Just do it because it's the right thing to do. And that's simple what volunteering is. It's just doing the right thing to do. I volunteered when I was at Marriott. We'd have the day when we go out in the community and do stuff within the community and things. Those were always a lot of fun. During Hurricane Katrina, when all of that aftermath with that, I was on the phones calling up associates from the hotels affected, letting them know where they could get their pay from if they wanted more work and blah, 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 where to go for work and that sort of stuff. That was a lot of fun as well. And there's just so much stuff that I've done over time. It's just sort of like, what else? Even when I was in the Air Force, we would have days we'd go out in the community and do stuff, and you volunteered for that. There's just so much stuff out there where if you want to volunteer, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can go and volunteer for. So find something that you're passionate about and see if there is a local charity or organization that could use those talents that you have, that passion that you have, and go help them out. Go help them. Just volunteer and go help. It's such a rewarding thing. And like I said, a lot of times you're not looking for the praise or the thank yous. It's just the right thing. It really is the right thing to do. And yeah, so go find. So your task for tonight, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm sidetracking myself now. So your family tree challenge for tonight is find someone in your family who volunteered in their community. What organization or cause did they support? What did they actually do? How long were they involved? Why was it important to them? Did other family members volunteer alongside them? Look for photographs, awards, newspaper articles, letters, and other clues. But most importantly, ask about the people they helped and the difference their contribution made. Family history isn't only about what our ancestors achieved for themselves. Sometimes their greatest legacy can be found in what they chose to do for someone else. Let us know in the comments below some of the stories that you uncover, because we love reading those stories. Love hearing this. I have people that will private message me the stories because they don't want to put in a comment to make it public. Totally fine with that as well. But I love hearing the stories that come through. So with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey,